Hey guys, here's a real quick look at that ZENITH 8S661 with the chassis assembled and the dial installed and so forth and ready to put back in the cabinet. Now I need to point out that this chassis had taken some kind of a major hit, and it was almost like it was in a car wreck or something, and it was all dented in the front, and the bracketry and all of the shafts and all that for the volume and tuning controls, and even the shaft, the outer shaft collar for the band switch, were so far out of alignment that I literally had to, kind of bend the chassis back into shape and very slowly and carefully work it so that all of these controls would work. Because you'll see that right here, the tuning control, the band switch, and the volume all go through the same opening. The outer collar here, this pot metal collar, and we're lucky that didn't break in whatever caused the damage. That outer pot metal collar controls the band switch through this linkage right here. And the band switch is actually a set of wafer switches right behind this point right here, and that shaft's coming out is the axial shaft for those wafer switches. Now the volume control goes through a really small shaft, like an 1/8 inch shaft, all the way back to the volume and the on-off switch, which are located about 2/3 of the way back inside the radio. And then of course the tuning control is a 1/4 inch hollow, a cylindrical quote-unquote shaft, which actually runs through that heavy-weighted wheel that Zeniths like to use, and then connected through a belt and a dial string to the gain capacitor up on the top. Now on this one, because of the alignment issue, I had to use a rubber belt. I was having trouble with the string bunching up because things didn't line up perfectly. So I used some rubber dial belt in a kit that I got from Radio Days. Real easy kit to use, real easy material to use, and a piece of cake to do. And since the idler wheel for this is slightly adjustable, I was able to set the belt up and then tighten it just enough so that it operated the tuning capacitor. At some point in the future, it may have to be adjusted out a little bit too as things stretch and whatever, and as the tuning mounting grommets begin to collapse a little bit. But until then, it's working fine. I don't want to over tighten it and then cause excess wear on the gain condenser. So we'll leave it as is there. Basically cleaned up the inside of the preset tuning. Didn't do anything else other than clean it up. Used some deoxit and all the sliding contacts and so forth. And the tiniest bit of lubricant here and there to help things to operate smoothly. And very carefully remove that cardboard in the process. I thought about using some flat lacquer to protect the cardboard, but it really was in pretty good shape as it was, so I left it alone. The same with these wires here. Usually I'll replace wires like this if they're looking rough. These looked pretty good, and so I put a real fine coat of flat lacquer on these just to protect them and keep the fibers, from deteriorating any further. The original Zenith shield for the converter tube, the 6A8 converter tube, was missing. This shield was with the radio, so this shield seems to work fine. I don't see any issues with it, so I'll just leave it be. If the owner wants to replace it with an original Zenith, I have a few of those. And thankfully, this one does not use the 6X5, and the transformer is actually sized appropriately for this. Some Zenith transformers are a little bit on the small side. You can see it's a 3-gain condenser. This does have a nice RF stage, excellent reception, and just the normal 2 IF transformers, no big deal. It's an 8-tube radio. For those that don't know the 8S661, the 8 stands for 8 tubes. S is the cabinet style, which in this case is an upright floor model, and the 6 in the 661 is for 1942. 1940, for example, would be a 4, so it would be 461 and so forth. So 6 is 1942. So this is a 1942 8-tube upright cabinet style radio, your classic 30s radio. It does use a wave magnet. I haven't put the cover back on the wave magnet, and I need to wipe the dust off of this thing, but otherwise I have gone through the wave magnet, made sure everything was okay, installed a new set of wires to the wave magnet, and and installed them in the connector, just because they need to be in good shape. They move a little bit here and there, and you don't need them cracking, and they looked horrible. There were some bad wires on it. The speaker wires, on the other hand, looked fine. There was no issue there. A little bit of lacquer on those to help protect those, but I didn't want to overdo it. Those are fine, and you know, you want to keep vintage look as much as you can. So this is the speaker. It's a nice speaker, has a nice bassy sound. Typical field coil Zenith speaker, and it does a nice job. And of course, I'm set up to measure the output as I did the alignment on this thing. So I've done the IF alignment, the oscillator, the antenna, all that stuff. I've done all of that, including the shortwave. Now on this antenna, there is a fourth wire that goes to the wave magnet. And at the wave magnet, some of them had a terminal you actually connected to, and some did not. This one does not. So I went ahead and put a alligator clip on the end of this wire, and labeled it so that the owner knows exactly what this wire is for. When he wants to listen to shortwave, then all he's got to do is hook a wire up to this alligator clip, and there he goes. He can go ahead and play shortwave. Otherwise, wave magnet works great, and it ran my my really fundamental, really basic signal generator through an old UHF circular antenna, just as a final test to make sure that I was getting good signal to the wave magnet, and I was able to get you know, a good 3 to 4 feet away from it with a very low output from the signal generator and still receiving the wave magnet. So that did a nice job. I think that's going to be fine. I'm going to go ahead and assemble this radio. I'll stop this little vid clip for right now, and the next time you see this chassis, it will be in the cabinet. Thank you.